Hardy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
There's a lot of players out there in the marketplace. A lot of the marketing looks very
Yeah.
much similar, right? In terms of speaking in specific generalities. Does that look like in terms of how people should approach the
Yeah.
market?
I make a joke, 1,000 competitors respond every day. I mean, there is a lot of, I would call it murkiness in the market because of, frankly, the ease of at least calling yourself a solution provider. But the reality of it is there are very few real solution providers in our space. And those are generally recognized by the industry's leading IT analysts. And so that's why that is really important. And I will tell you time and time again, when we get into these conversations with big enterprises, the analyst recognition and or vetting is a critical part of their process to determine who they want to bring into their to compete for their solution. Secondly, there's always the pilot, which some companies view as a problem or a sales prevention tool. I view them. We love pilots. I mean, we love them because it proves the quality of our technology and it sort of separates the real solutions from the maybe the ones that aren't as good. So it enables us to really shine. And in many cases, what we're seeing is the results are so profound from the deployment of the pilot that they don't want to turn it off. So we kind of have moved to a model where we got customers who are saying, look, call it almost like a slow start as opposed to a pilot. Like we're only going to open the floodgates a little bit, and maybe we'll do it on one channel or something and test the efficiency and effectiveness, the containment, if you will, of the automation, the success of the automation. And if they're getting really good results, then they'll just basically turn it up and turn it on. And it's staggering the success we're having with that kind of deployment strategy. So, these are the two typical ways that I see where we're sort of separating the competitors, I would call it the non-competitors from the real competitors, is the validation by the analysts, and then the proofs in the pudding from a pilot standpoint.
I would agree. When we look at aligning with a tech partner, such as aligning with yourself, we look at their culture, we look at their competency, and then we look at their customer centricity, because the customer centricity will let you know fundamentally how responsible they will be post-sale.
Yeah. Yes. And I thank you for reminding me of that. That's really great. I should have, and I didn't mention this, but I should have. So, part of what the analysts actually do their vetting, if you will, is they do talk to dozens and dozens of customers. And so that's the other piece. And what you just said, the combination of the culture and the customer centricity is the other, in my opinion, defining hallmarks of Cognigy and its differentiation, which is we're not leaving till it's great. The experience is great.
And there's a lot of moving parts, and it requires an organization that's dedicated to a mission of helping the customer get better. And so exactly. I do like that about your firm. You talked a little bit earlier about personalization. How do you see that in terms of what you're trying to do with your Cognigy technology and your AI? When you think about what's the best experience? Well, it's personalized, it's easy to use, it's accessible all the time. How do you address that?
Well, in my opinion, there's really two elements to this. One is personalization and one is context. So personalization, of course, is, without a lot of effort, who I am, what I like. Some of this is driven by my profile, et cetera. And we're leveraging all that. I mean, corporations have oceans of data on you and me. And one of the big challenges has been getting access to that data, curating that data in a way that it's accessible, and then leveraging it. And again, up until recently, people weren't doing that very well. So now we're able to do that at scale in real time. And so you're able to deliver a much more personalized experience, right? The context is part of what I would describe as, and this is actually a really interesting application of Gen AI too. You can use a little bit of large language model to take what is a very sort of stilted conversation or structured conversation and add more kind of personalization to it. And a good example of this is something like in a traditional bot where you might say, you're talking to the bot, if you will, and you're saying, I need to book a flight to Florida because I need to go to a family wedding. Now, the bot would just hear, I need to go to Florida, on Friday, the wedding part would not be. But if you add a little bit of more contextualization to the experience, with the large language model, it's smart enough to know that you've now mention why you're going to Florida, and we can essentially inject a response that includes some personalization around that. Like, that's great to hear. Congratulations. We're really excited that you're going to the wedding. Let us help you with your flight. Okay. And I was just like, wow, that was a really great experience I just had. It wasn't just, what flight, what day, what, not to say that we don't want to get stuff done. So I would call it empathy and or enthusiasm, which are, two sides of the same coin. So, the enthusiasm is the one I just demonstrated. Empathy might be, I need to go to Florida because I have a funeral, and the bot could actually profess some empathy. I'm sorry to hear about your loss. Let me help you with your booking. That adds that little bit of personalization and that little bit of empathy that gives, it is a contextual kind of shaping of the experience the customer feels better about it.
Yeah, and I think one thing I would add to that is also the fact that that may be super on brand with that company.
Yeah.
So that brand element to making sure that that's woven into the conversational
Yeah.
AI can be hugely powerful in terms of creating loyalty and attach.
We're working with a bank in Europe that is creating avatars. They're
Oh,
going to use which is really interesting. And they're actually creating, I'm going to say, an army of avatars, not literally, but figuratively. And I don't want to go back to the Elon Musk dystopian end of the world. But the point is more is, and this is, by the way, we can do this now with voices as well. So, you can pick, I'm more comfortable talking to a female. I'm more comfortable talking to a male, whatever, it doesn't matter.
mm-hmm.
And you can personalize your experience so that and people like to do this. If they have an opportunity to create a personalized experience, they will take advantage of those options. And this avatar idea, literally they're planning on having, if your preference is a 40-year-old male, your avatar will be 40-year-old male named Brad or whatever, so it's like you can pretty much have it any way you want it. But that is another kind of extension of capabilities that are making these experiences even more lifelike, which is very, very cool.
How can we build trust and not lose trust?
Correct.
And so by building trust through having the right person matched to their needs is perfect.
Exactly. Yeah. And, again, that avatar can basically, with all the connectivity into the databases, systems of record, et cetera, they can literally take a loan application. You know what I mean? It's not like, they're capable of doing all sorts of really interesting stuff. So it's call it human personification of really good automation is the way I think of it. And it's powerful.
It is. When I think about adopting AI, it's literally not a light switch. It's adopting a new journey that's going to be with you now for however long you're in business. And so it needs to be matched with other things that you're doing, have ownership around it. Do you find that for people that are adopting AI, that they clearly understand that now they're stepping into a space that they're going to have to maintain?
Yeah. I think first of all, they got to get through the risk analysis, and they got to, and as you said, and of course, conversational AI, as I said, is very low risk on the AI spectrum. So we tend to get through that pretty quickly. But I would actually say you're never done with this stuff. Just like humans, we are always being retrained. We're always getting new feedback. We're learning new things, et cetera. It's the same thing with your AI enabled automation. You can continue to refine and maybe there's some point where you reach a, sort of 90+% success rate or something, and you declare victory. But again, you may change the voice. You may say, you know what, the feedback from our post-call or post-interaction surveys says that they like the experience, but they really don't like the persona, whoever that is. So you can experiment with the voice and change it up, or maybe you have different voices for, as I said before. So, I think you're never done. That's part of the challenge, but that's also great because you can imagine, and I just had a call with a firm yesterday where they had imagined what their future would look like. And we started to talk about how with the Cognigy platform, they could make that a reality. And once we got into it and started talking about all the, the differentiators and the capabilities of the platform and their ability to bring through their own choice some of this complementary technology to the party and change their mind and change it out and put other things in. You could just see their face. They literally sort of, it was very stiff at the beginning, kind of normal experience when you don't really know anybody and that kind of thing. But by the time we were done, they were really excited and wanting to just get going. Like, this is okay. We have been thinking about this for so long. Now we know we can do it. Let's do it. How do we get this done? Of course, they want to do a pilot, which makes perfect sense. What I would do. And, away we go.
So you talked a little bit about some of the origination being like with IT and HR, and then moving into this natural space for a contact center. If
Customer
we think
service, yeah.
about moving forward right into the future, does this move into sales and VR
Yeah,
technology? And is
absolutely.
that where we're going with this?
Yeah, we're going front office, front of the house. Yes, exactly. And it's natural because if you think about it, if we optimize the inbound, why can't we optimize the outbound? Right? It's the same. And believe it, sales, there's a huge amount of spend on sales and marketing, as you well know. And so, yeah, there's a lot of interest. And by the way, there's a lot of interest in, as you said, if we liberate these agents from all this mundane, we upskill them. They now, and if a customer has a great experience interfacing with a company, of course I want to buy more stuff from you. So let's make it easy. Let's ask. Why do I have to like make you go away and then chase you to buy something when I have you on the line or on the chat? And oh, by the way, I noticed you're on a regular basis consuming XYZ. I can save you 10% if we put you on a subscription. Boom, and away you go. It's a great experience. It's what I want. I mean, Amazon does this kind of in their shopping experiences. We all know extraordinarily well. I mean, I don't know what all I just get stuff showing up now because it was so easy to say yes. So yes, I would tell you is let's a little bit more of making outbound sales easier to say yes. And it's powerful. It's really cool.
I like that you share that thought process, because I really believe that this is more of an abundance rather than a scarcity mindset. A lot of people are hanging on to jobs and to functions right now because it's traditionally what they've had. But this is going to evolve, and it's going to create incredible opportunity for
Absolutely.
people to do different things, which is going to mean they're going to make more money.
Ex-
Going to be phenomenal. And I like the fact that this is not just the backside of the customer journeys, which would be post sale, right? Or we're
Mhm.
looking at adoption or advocacy. That this really should be on the front part. Everything from acquisition into top of funnel to close. Like really, this should be pushed forward inside of the organization, because all these tools. In fact, maybe it's the reason why personally, I believe the word contact center is just a word that needs to go away. It does
Mhm.
not conjure up an image of
Yeah.
what we're trying to do, which is essentially, drive a better experience for people
Mhm.
inside the company, for people outside the company, creating availability across multiple channels. And back to our point earlier, just fundamentally solving the problems in a better way.
Yep. Yeah. And the other part of the puzzle that has sort of evolved over the last few years is this ability through enhanced collaboration tools to tap into the entire organization becomes the customer experience center. And if you think about it, and you're right, it's not a contact center anymore. And of course, that term sort of evolved from call center because it was voice originally. And so a lot of people still use the term call center, of course. But to your point, if 70% of the interactions are digital, it's not a call center anymore. And frankly, what we're trying to do here is transform customer experience. So I like the idea, number one, that through the advanced tooling that you can do now with all the collaboration tools, et cetera, you can really use the entire organization to leverage the entire organization to create these profound first call resolution, first digital interaction resolution experiences into this customer experience center idea. We just proposed one for a customer, and it was a white clean sheet, meaning they're a new company, which was really, really cool because they had put all the thought into what use cases they needed to deploy. They had thought about how much would be voice and how much would be digital and how many humans they would need and all that. But it was this ability to kind of just approach it from a completely, to your point, there was no reference to a contact center in that proposal. It was all about this customer experience paradigm, if you will, or center, which was really cool.
So your company has really thought through the process of setting expectations and delivering for AI. What do you see as maybe that you can share right now that are some of the secrets to that success in terms of moving from, hey, this is what we think we can do for you, scoping it out in a way that sets an expectation, and then moving into a project implementation? What makes that project implementation really work and become successful?
I would say I think it's making sure everyone's really aligned on the goals of the project. And sometimes because the technology is so powerful, people get a little bit enamored on, well, like it could do anything. But you're like, well, yes, it could do anything, but what are we trying to achieve? So if we get aligned on the goals and have both qualitative and quantitative measurements of what that looks like at the MVP, what I would call the MVP level, meaning the first iteration, and then a longer term set of aspirations about over time, if we continue to improve and enhance it, where would be the, call it, terminal velocity of that particular use case. That's the kind of stuff where I see people putting a lot of time into that they get the best results. So, and the implementation, it's a different animal, designing and deploying conversational AI or AI enabled automation solutions than, say, a traditional deploying a PBX or contact center or whatever. So some of the professional services personnel can come from that domain from before, but in some cases, because this creating a transformative conversation, there's a bit of art to it, that we tend to see interesting personalities fitting into the new paradigm for professional services.
I can only imagine. And I couldn't agree with you more. People think it would have to be somebody who's providing this logical, rational, procedural process, but really
Yeah,
it's understanding human behavior and
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
the
Exactly.
idiosyncratic ways in which, and dysfunctional and wonderful ways in which we do communicate and how to navigate that. You really have to have a very flexible and almost artistic mindset for it.
That's exactly right. That you got it.
Yeah. So if we look at, the kind of advice you would want to give to not just a contact center professional, maybe we'll broaden the scope, maybe to a C-level executive that knows that they need to build a sustainable organization, aside from the obvious, which is, hey, you need to talk to a trusted advisor or whatever, 60. I mean,
Call
that
Cognigy.
obviously outside of the obvious, what advice would you give them in terms of
Yeah.
how they move into this space?
Well, getting back to my CX transformation debacle of previously in my career, what I would say is, you got to get really clear on what is your goal? Like, where are you? First of all, where are you today? Like, where are you on your CSAT? Where are you on your NPS, et cetera? What is your goal? Okay. Where are the pain points? And what technology you need to deploy to address those? So, as I said before, really focusing on high value, low time to value use cases initially, so you can get the organization to burn through their trepidation about automation, as we've
Mm-mm.
talked about, and get some points on the board, if you will, and get everybody excited about it. And what we see when when that's done properly, you get leadership buy-in, of course, but they want it to be successful because they're the ones that probably sort of architected the plan. But more importantly, you get feedback, validation quantitatively on the customer metrics, CSAT, et cetera. And really, most importantly, you get the agents buying in, or the human elements of and if they take ownership of it, you end up having an outstanding result. And those are the elements I would say that you need to create these really transformative customer experiences. And by the way, being willing to flex as well. So maybe that use case, we thought that was going to deliver a lot of value, and it just didn't quite, even though we architected it perfectly,
Mhm.
that wasn't really the pain point. We missed the mark a little bit. So, being willing to step back, recalibrate, refine, maybe try another use case, et cetera. I just want to slightly pivot for a second. One of the great things that I'm so impressed with the leadership of Cognigy, the engineering team's amazing. C-level leadership is really, really dialed in, is this relentless focus on moving forward,
Mm.
but also with a clearly defined roadmap, but having the flexibility to change that based on a couple of things I would call macro developments, all a Gen AI coming out of left field, if you
Mhm.
will, and then also customer input. So,
Yeah.
we deploy a new capability, and then, because we have all these very large enterprise customers globally, we're getting a real-time feed on what they like, what they don't like, in a perfect world to do this or that. And so it's a nice balance of that sort of looking forward and predicting the future, adapting to macro developments, all at Gen AI in real time, and then also being willing to listen to, which is really important, what your enterprise customers are saying. And we had a customer experience summit that's on our YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, and there's a lot of I would call it, various large enterprises up there talking about what they did with Cognigy and how it's transformed their enterprise. But the energy in that room, from what I just described, that willingness to have that vibrant relationship with your customers and your partners, your tech partners, your resale partners, et cetera, it was outstanding.
I think that's amazing. It's very visceral, and it's also underscores the fact that as it has been through time in memoriam, is that the adaptive group of people are the survivors. And so you can't develop blind
Yeah,
spots. You can't bury your
that's
head.
right.
You
That's
have to
exactly it.
be aware of what's going on and build an organization that can make that change, because that's the pool that we're all living in, right? So like if you have
Right.
to make that change, it ultimately is a change that needs to be made for your customer as well.
Right. And on generative AI, I mean, if you were just sitting on the fence, you might go, wow, this could just completely eclipse everything we were doing on conversation. Not we, but people. And
Mhm.
of course, we knew that wasn't the case, and we had a plan on how we were going to blend the two technologies together.
Mhm.
And we did that faster, in my opinion, than anybody in the market. And that has been extremely well received by enterprises because they appreciated the fact we embraced it. We came up with real applicable solutions that they could deploy that were low risk in the short term, and the flexibility to change their mind in the future, which, the future proofing value prop is so huge for enterprises because they hate getting cul-de-sac with a specific, like technology that then they made an investment, they're stuck with it for umpteen years. And that's the beauty of Cognigy.
Yeah.
You're never stuck with Cognigy. It's a joy to have it because of that interoperability and future proofing.
Hardy, you're a super pro. Thanks for being on the show.
It's great. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.